Joining me now is Ebony Brown, an impact investment expert and partner at Rethink Education, a venture capital firm focused on education technology and funding the next generation through investments. Ebony, great to see you. I still have, but knew her well. Judith Rodin, when she was head of the Rockefeller Foundation, was a huge writer, cheerleader for impact investing. And I think a lot of folks that are listening to this forum on environmental social governance, I keep saying that because sometimes people don't know what ESG stands for. But a lot of folks look at it as philanthropy, as selflessness, as somehow, taking some time on the weekends and doing something nice for folks or fixing something. But you're in a different space, and I would just love you to give a snapshot of what impact investing really means.
Sure, and thank you for having me, Steve. Impact investing is investing with like a double bottom line. And so looking for companies that will have venture style returns, but they also should be involved in a sector that is solving a big societal issue. For us, it's education. So anything that is in the training or learning space. So it's kind of just putting a lens on or filter on the types of for-profit companies that you invest in.
So can you give us an example? So I know certain companies like 2U and others that are working in the digital space, working with existing universities to broaden the footprint and reach. I don't know the economics of it very well, but would that be a model, or are there other things and other examples that you can talk about and you can walk us through of how tangibly it works?
Sure, that would definitely be a model. I mean, I think some other companies that we've seen go public this year would be like Coursera or Udemy, which fall within the massive online courses, Duolingo, which is language learning. Those are probably some of the more well-known. Also in like the training and learning space and selling directly to corporations is a company called Guild Education, which offers education as a benefit. And so you might have heard of tuition deferment, where corporations are paying, helping their employees pay back some of their student loans. Well, Guild instead allows employees to use up to $5,000 or so to take classes while they're still working. And it's great benefit that Target and Walmart and others have rolled out to their employee bases at all levels.
You mentioned Duolingo. I've interviewed the founder and CEO of Duolingo before, and a little, interesting fact is he invented CAPTCHA, the little CAPTCHA, and he basically gave it away for free. So he did this huge innovation, just donated it, it's kind of donated it to the world and to figure out how we can all verify who we are, what we're doing. But what do you see? I always ask this, and I know you're in the business and industry, so you may not do it, but what are some of the binds, the wobbly parts of this? What are some of the blind spots when it comes to this? Or do you see, you have concerns about the direction of double bottom line, of impact investing, that if we wanted to improve this sector, no sector is perfect, but if we wanted to improve and strengthen it, what would be some of those suggestions you'd make?
Yeah, I think sometimes I think more working together with philanthropy, because there are a lot of times when I will see either or, like I'll see a company that has a great purpose, and the goal that they want to achieve will help to better society. But if they don't have product market fit and the actual buyer isn't having the concern that or the immediate need to buy the problem that they're solving, there sometimes is a mismatch. And I'll have to pass on something because it's like, okay, I can't necessarily see this achieving venture-like scale returns, but would love to share something like this with some of my friends in ESG or philanthropy, who are also helping to solve some of these large societal challenges, but would be okay with not necessarily having such rigid I guess, ROI that they're trying to achieve as far as financial returns.
To Ebony, another question, I have on this, you've mentioned some very big companies like Coursera, of course, 2U is growing, like a weed. It's doing incredibly well. But I think that one of the things I find in this field, and this is my own, it's not scientific, folks, it's just my observation, is there are a lot of great stories out there that are boutique stories. They're small, they're creating positive impacts, say in education or other areas. But I always wonder how to scale them. I wonder how the boutique story can become the norm as opposed to just this sideshow that I love talking about, but at some level, unless you can scale it, unless you can help it, impact others, then the universe you have remains a lot of, unattached pieces of fabric out there as opposed to, something. So I don't want to be against innovation, but I'm just wondering, do you think about that when you kind of look at what Rethink is doing and you're measuring your impact? Do you consider who is scaling what and how you can get market power driven to, because that's what's going to change down the road. I mean, we'd love to get your thoughts.
For sure. And for me, I initially wanted to go into philanthropy and was thinking about, grant giving and to help solve some of these big societal issues, but saw venture as a way to accomplish the similar goals in a more sustainable way, because you're investing in companies and that have a larger scale through technology to reach not just certain geographies, but across the world. And so I guess I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I think I got lost.
Yeah, I'm basically looking at how you invest in scale, taking good stories and scale them so that they have a much larger footprint and impact. Is that part of the design of Rethink Education?
Yes. So, we definitely think that not that technology will completely take over. We think that humans should remain in the center of education, but we're trying to invest in things that can help to augment or make teachers' jobs easier, or support students that aren't able to come into school. So, and things that are able to help people that are maybe in more rural areas have access to professionals that are in careers that they wouldn't necessarily see in their neighborhoods. So I think that there's definitely an opportunity for both. I think some organizations are great at going very deep in a specific geography or specific area, and that those don't necessarily warrant venture capital. But venture capital does allow us to take some of the great learnings that we have here in the US and other places and share them across the world. So it's just more of a global impact that can be made. If you're thinking about outcomes and size of outcomes, it can help that to be much, much larger.
Ebony, one just last quick question. I'm interested in higher education, and if there's one sector that I think has resisted disruption, it's them. Now, the 2Us and others are sort of getting in the back door and helping them to expand footprint. But if you go sit down at, Harvard or University of Chicago, I would argue, with all due respect to those institutions, that they have not gone through disruption, that we're still caught up in a credentialing nightmare in America, in my view, that there's a lot of stigma about what kind of schools and training you have and your role in society. As you are engaged in ESG and rethink this, I'm just wondering if there's another dimension where rethinking credentialing and education, how we make people value lifelong learning, just unstacking some of the norms and stigma of the past is part of what the ESG mission ought to be in this.
Yes, and I'll say that is a big challenge in general. You see so many students having unsurmountable student debt, and not necessarily having guaranteed outcomes as far as career. I feel like maybe 10 years ago, we were just talking about college completion, but now there's such a heavy emphasis on, actually the connection to jobs and the speed of how jobs are changing. Traditional colleges are struggling to keep up with the skills that are needed in the job force. And so there's a lot of innovative technologies and a company called Pathstream that's like working with Facebook or other just big tech employers and figuring out, okay, what are the gaps maybe at the entry level? Maybe it's in digital marketing. How can I work with someone in L&D at Facebook to help to create a curriculum around digital marketing? And then put that into community colleges or put that into four-year universities so that these students are coming out with tangible skills that they can either take trying to get into Facebook or using that branding and credential to help make them more employable in other areas. So we're seeing a lot of public-private partnerships, a lot of boot camps, apprenticeships, and other pathways that students are able to take now that we're kind of breaking down just pedigree and that you have to go to a top school, go to an employer. Employers are now focusing on how can we better evaluate skills and helping with the mastery of that, and even in the interview process, like skills-based assessments so that we can get the right talent and not just go to the same pools that we've always been.
Well, that's really heartening to hear. That sounds cool, and thank you for sharing that. Ebony Brown, partner at Rethink Education, really thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.